Okay, well, good morning. I have that it's 11 o'clock and we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. I do appreciate those of you that have joined this live event, taking some time out of your day. Before I get too far into the presentation, I just want to share with you a phone conversation I recently had with a client of mine. And it was last week. We were on the phone and he had just received a letter, a thank you note actually, from an employee that was thanking the owner of this business for not only just being a part of his business and for 20 years, but also the gala that they had a couple of years ago before the pandemic. You see, my client celebrated 75 years of being in business, and he threw a big party. It was a monster party. Over 1,000 employees were there and their guests, along with the mayor was there and other local officials and dignitaries. And the owner of this business spared no expense. It was a wonderful, wonderful celebration. They had a lot to celebrate. The family had successfully transitioned to the third generation for leadership. They had just achieved their record year in revenues in 75 years. And in that same year, the family made a significant contribution to the local children's hospital. So it was just a wonderful event. After that phone call with my client, I got to thinking about how important family businesses really are, not just to the employees or to the customers or even the family shareholders, but family businesses are truly the greatest contributor to our free enterprise system here in America. In fact, research has determined that there's over 5.5 million family businesses today that contribute more than 60% of the United States GDP. I also know that last year, family businesses created 80% of all the new jobs in America. So just those statistics alone tell you how important family businesses are. But the other part of a family business is if you really dig deep into it, you realize they're the heart of philanthropy and local communities, and they're truly the brains behind the big, significant breakthrough innovations that we've seen in our country in our time. So, yep, family businesses are needed, not only for our local economies, but for our country. And I think that working in a family business can be very rewarding, and it can be very prosperous. But not always is it that way. In fact, that client I was talking to, I can remember when I first met him 10 years ago, he was very disheartened with his family business. They had lost direction, they were having family disagreements, and it was a very stressful time for him. And so I know that many family businesses have these same emotions and difficulties, particularly in these last 2 years with the pandemic. I mean, think about the things that all businesses are having to face today with supply chain disruptions, uncontrolled inflation now, and a limited workforce. So it can be a very difficult time for family businesses. In fact, we're seeing more owners today in the founder or family trap. That's what we call it. They can't find a way forward. Let me give you an example of what is a founder or family trap. I had a client that I was introduced to from his CPA several years ago. He was just turning 65. And he had built a business, he and his wife built a business from $0 to $30 million of annual revenue. Very successful business. His big dream was that his two sons would take that business over. Well, as it would have it, the sons decided they did not want to be in the business. They wanted to go on their own path. So the founder became very distraught. He did not know how to exit his business or how to monetize the worth that the net worth that he built up in that business. So he felt trapped. Another example, two brother-in-laws actually. They worked in their family business for many years. The patriarch, founder of that business, found himself in serious health conditions. was in the hospital in ICU, literally on his deathbed, and gave those two boys 50% each of their business. It was a great time. I mean, it was nice that they got the business. But that patriarch tried to manage the business even from the grave by telling those two boys that by the end of the year, their business would be bankrupt. Can you imagine starting off in that new partnership relationship? Last example of the family trap is a woman is a CEO of a company and client of mine. And ever since she was 14 years of age, her father had been grooming her and preparing her to be the leader, the CEO of the family business, helped her pick her college courses. And in fact, she has found that she is in that role, but she's had no experience, no training, and feels trapped in that family business. So with that said, my name is Rob Ferguson. I am the founder of Ferguson Alliance, and we're here to help all family business owners that we meet find their way out of that trap and carve a road to prosperity. We're very passionate about family business because we come from family business. I'm here with David Schlossberg and Brandy Merrick. We have decades of experience of working inside family businesses, either as non-family members or as family members, board members, shareholders, executives. And today, what we're going to be presenting is our process of how we help family businesses get out of that trap and move to their zone of prosperity for many generations to come. Thanks for joining us. We only work with privately held family-owned businesses. And the reason why we do that is because we see an emergency here. See, family businesses have been declining in age. In fact, common research tells us that only 40% of family-owned businesses survive to the second generation. It goes down to 12% for the third generation. So like my client at 75 years, you can see they actually made it. They're part of that 12%. But to get to the fourth generation, which is typically 100 years old, it's less than 3% that those family businesses actually survive. So David and Brandy and myself, we're passionate about reversing those statistics for family businesses. In fact, here's some of our statistics in the past 12 years. That's how we measure, are we adding value to our clients? What we have discovered is that every dollar invested in Alliance fees over the past 12 years has increased our collective clients' business value by more than $9. So for every dollar invested, we've returned $9. We think that's pretty good. This prosperity plan that I'm about to share with you is the exact proven system that we've used to get those great results for our clients. So our flight plan for today is we're going to first begin by defining, well, what is prosperity? We're going to then ask you to do a self-assessment as we present the 9 keys to prosperity. And I know not everybody here on this call is a family owner or business owner. Some of you on the call are service providers to family businesses. So I would ask you to think about it from your client's perspective if you're a service provider to family business. At the end of the presentation, we'll get you some information on how to contact us in case we said anything that was insightful or enlightening, or you just would like to visit with us. We'd love to talk to you. So a few housekeeping. Brandy Merrick, she's going to be monitoring the chat box. And so if you have any questions, we encourage you to type those questions into chat, or if you have some comments, please do that. Brandy will respond to you. And also, Brandy is very good at interrupting me. So we gave her the job of interrupting me during this webinar. And we can address some of your questions live as we're going through the presentation and as time allows for us. So what is prosperity? How do you define it? So I think family business prosperity is different from what Webster tells us. In fact, it is whatever you, the business owner, declares it is to be. However, a business owner chooses to define prosperity. It ought to be more than just status and money, shouldn't it? This should include the impact that your organization is going to make on all of your stakeholders it serves. And I'm talking, when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about not just your employees and customers, but your suppliers and your community. So to reach that zone of prosperity, the impact of the business defines the legacy of the business that helps keep it grounded as it grows. So it's important that you know how to define prosperity. See, we believe there's a ripple effect, and I think most of you on this call, you're joining us because you probably have that same belief. As a family business grows and expands, certainly the local economies improve. We're able to help support city services, schools, and keep our communities vibrant. Employees end up having an opportunity for career advancement and increasing of their income. Hopefully, our suppliers are growing with us, and then they also can contribute to their local economies and their employees can grow. And then the other thing that's really great is that philanthropy continues to increase. During the pandemic, it was all of the philanthropy organizations really struggled and being able to keep up with their contributions. And those contributions, most of them come from the private sector, family-owned businesses. So again, as a family business prospers, so does philanthropy. In other words, everybody wins. So we believe every organization has a natural and predictable life cycle, just like, let's say, a tree, right? And that cycle is based on time and growth, just like a tree. So by analyzing a business life cycle, we can then predict problems an organization might perhaps face and help determine the best way to deal with those problems. So let's take a look at the first stage, just like in a tree, a seedling. It's in its infant stage, it's infancy. This is the highest risk period for any business. This is probably when you have little, more likely negative cash flow, no management depth. You're probably still trying to do proof of concept with your product or service. It's a challenging and risky time. Hopefully, you're able to get some traction with that new business idea or that new product. And as that business grows over time, it starts reaching its adolescency, and, those youthful years where you're starting to see maybe too many opportunities to keep up. You're having to turn down some business. You're very reactive in this stage, and you have more spinning plates on the stick than you can deal with. And this becomes a bit of a struggle for you to delegate opportunities because you still haven't really built your management team. And again, as your business grows and over time, hopefully between youth, you don't have a premature death with your infancy, because there's only two ways that startup business can go. It can grow to adolescence, youthful stage, or you can see a premature death. The next stage is what we call prime. Now, this stage is a very interesting stage because getting to prime is probably one of the most challenging things any organization can get to. It's where a business, in our opinion, reaches that ideal state of balance between flexibility and structure. And when you're in a youthful stage, you're really just moving fast to get as many opportunities as you can. You're probably a very dynamic organization, not many processes, not many procedures, not many standards in place. As you move into prime, you realize you've got to start building more structure because you've hired more employees. You now have a management team. And so you got to put some standard operating practices in place so you can have consistency of product and service. And so again, once you reach that stage of prime, you've found that you're in the ideal balance between structure and flexibility. What I'd like for you to notice is we don't put prime at the peak of the life cycle. We put middle age at the peak. And the reason why we did that is because, quite honestly, the middle age stage, that's the beginning of the fall. See, a company is in middle age when you start hearing things like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or don't rock the boat. This is the stage where a company is sustaining its performance. It's probably very profitable. It's probably been around for many years. And it is doing well, but it is also taking less risk. It is starting to have bureaucracy seep a little bit into its culture, and the passion and innovation of trying to find new opportunities in that prime stage starts waning. The next stage in the cycle is those senior years. In those senior years, it becomes a real challenge because you're starting to decline. You're starting to see folks in your organization maybe blaming one another. You tend to be very reliant on your past successes for justifying your future actions or your future state. And it becomes maybe not as dynamic and fun to work in. In the twilight years, this is the stage of decay. The business is always looking at cost reductions. You might even see a lot of silos in the organization, petty jealousies. Clearly in the twilight stage, structure is overshadowing flexibility. And then it's just a matter of time that you run out of cash and the business cannot be sustained. So this is our view of what an organization life cycle looks like for a business. And where we like to work is helping businesses get through their life events without the business dying, or get people out of the family or founder trap to prevent it from dying, and to help unfulfilled owners find their passion again. And so once they do, they can then find their prosperity zone. And we define the prosperity zone right here where the circle is to help companies get to there from their youthful stage, or if they're in the middle stage, to reinvent themselves to get to prime. Now, we do work with some of the senior stage companies. We've even worked with some twilight stage companies. It takes a lot of work to turn those businesses around. And it's important that the senior leadership, the owners, they have the right mindset to put the work and effort in. Then we can work shoulder to shoulder with those business owners to help them reach their prosperity zone. So just like in my opening comments, you know you're in the prosperity zone when truly you see and feel the culture, the vibe, the energy. Your employees are engaged, your customers are giving you great reviews. You're very profitable, obviously, but you're making a contribution bigger than just providing a product or a service. There are also chaotic times when you're in the prosperity zone. So I don't want you to think that it's just easy sailing. And it's chaos because you're growing and you're adapting to external changes. And at the same time, you're reinventing your structure. So you're trying to keep your structure up to speed with the new opportunities that exist for you. Now, there are a lot of barriers that get in the way of prosperity. Primary one is cash flow issues. That's the ones that we hear about, at least. Organization structure gets into the way of the zone of prosperity. You might have departmental silos. You have broken down communication processes. You're not fully engaged with listening to your employees as leaders. Maybe leadership is a lack of vision, or at least it's not very clear to the organization. Revenues could be declining. There's multiple reasons why you have barriers getting in the way of prosperity. So if any of these are affecting you, how do you get there? How do you move a company through these barriers? Well, we look at it kind of as our model is a house of prosperity, or the family business treasury, so to speak. And we believe prosperity is ultimately achieved and maintained when the family business legacy is integrated with the business growth direction and the overall value that it creates. See, we define legacy as the mark the business leaves on the world. We see that growth defined as the increasing business impact that it can make to its stakeholders, not just revenue. And we also define value as the overall health or richness of the business, not just profits. So we believe businesses are living organisms comprised of people that these businesses can live way beyond people. In fact, we believe infinitely. And they can do that if there is a clearly articulated shared vision, a strong organization culture, and a very robust system for managing. All three of these are built onto the foundation of family values, which are integrated into the business culture. We think that's the secret sauce to family businesses, is incorporating those family values into the business culture. Now, our model has 9 key elements, 3 for each of the pillar. And we're going to quickly review each of these 9 elements in the next several slides. And hopefully you can see your place of prosperity. We're going to invite you to do a self-assessment as we go through each of these models. And Brandy is going to be also administering a poll. So this poll is anonymous, so nobody will know how you answered it, but it would be great information and hopefully maybe even some conversation if you would write down your score on the assessment that we provided of where you think your business is, or if you're a service provider, where your client's business might be, and then also respond to the poll. And then we can maybe have a little discussion about it if time warrants.
And I'll just go ahead and add, Rob, too, that if you're in Teams, the poll will pop up on your screen. If you are not in the Teams application, then the poll will be in the chat.
Great. Thanks, Brandy. I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's look at the first element under shared vision is decide. Well, this question here, will you be a business first family or a family first business? It's a very easy question to ask. It's a difficult one to answer. In fact, our process, many family shareholders take several weeks to answer this. I've even had a couple of clients take months to get to a consensual answer, and consensus is important in that definition. So what's really the difference between a family first business and a business first family? It's really about what comes first. What are you putting the best interest of the family first or the best interest of the business first? Let's take a look at some comparisons. These are just a few examples. So in a family first business, there's only family successors. Now, I've had some clients who had a rule, so to speak, that said only blood family successors are allowed. You won't find that in a business first family. You have qualified successors. In a family first business, there's excessive perks. A lot of personal expenses are being run through the company books. In a business first family, they separate personal and business spending. Family first business, it's all about making sure that we are able to take care of all of our family members. And that's with non-performance-based compensation a lot of times. I had one client, his aunt was the bookkeeper, had been for at least 10 years. And she came to work a couple days a week and she was making 6-figure salary. It was important that that business was providing for the aunt. Nothing wrong with that. That's just what the family had chosen. In a business first family environment, it's always going to be market-based compensation. Family first business, same client that had the aunt in the bookkeeper role, that if your father was the vice president of sales, the firstborn son was going to become the vice president of sales, whether they were qualified or not. That's just how it worked for 100 years. In a business first family, you had to be skilled. You had to have the requirements necessary for that job. Family first businesses avoid conflict. Why? Quite simply, they want to be able to go to Thanksgiving dinner with the family and have a peaceful family dinner if they can. In a business first family, you're going to have meeting structures, barrier escalation processes. You're going to have formal and informal communication guidelines to help deal with conflict. So where's your business? Have you had a discussion about what the priority is? Business first or family first? Have you written it down? Have you communicated it to all of your family members and your employee? Take a moment. Brandy's going to put the poll up, but take a moment and give yourself a score. And let's see where everybody that's on this call, where you are with this, this first element of making a decision. Okay. Let's give it a few. We're getting a few more responses here, but it looks like half are slightly below average, and 25% slightly above average, and 25% non-existent or poor. So again, thank you for, oh, we got another, yeah, so it's coming in. So it does look like kind of below average. Well, thank you all very much for participating in that poll. And we'll continue to do this, and we'll add up the scores at the end and just see where the audience is. The second element of the shared vision is, what's the impact on lives that your business is really going to make? See, we believe that the impact can be defined in three statements: purpose, vision, and mission. Let's take a look at purpose first. So your purpose statement articulates why you do what you do, why your organization exists, and why you serve a higher purpose. I think these are two inspirational business founders of our time that really got that. See, purpose acts as a North Star. It guides every decision you make and action you take as a company. Now, the vision is the big dream. It's your big idea. It tells you what you aspire to be. What are the results and goals you want to reach in the future? It helps you define what that success really is. Vision statements should be very inspirational for everyone in your stakeholder community. The big challenge I always have with my CEO clients is your dream big enough? Why does it need to be big enough? So others can dream inside it. I mean, think about some pretty big dreams out there. The one that I really relate to a lot, maybe it's just because of my age and upbringing, but the big dream that I think about is what John F. Kennedy's vision was. And that was to land a man on the moon before the decade is out and return him safely to Earth. And that was very aspirational at the time. It was certainly big, and he got the whole country. In fact, he got the whole world rallied around that big dream. Others could dream inside of that dream. So mission. The mission statement tells you how you're going to fulfill this purpose and vision. It helps bring focus to your organization. It also tells you what you're not going to be working on, hopefully eliminating some distractions. I know you're thinking that, hey, this distinction between purpose, vision, and mission is really small, really subtle. It is. Nonetheless, it's critical. Each term is a distinct driver to your business impact on the lives of your community, your employees, your stakeholders. See, I believe you should do this in a collaborative manner with your management team, in fact, your entire staff eventually, and do it collaboratively, because it's the process that you go through. That's what gets your alignment. That's what allows others to get behind this. See, the decisions that you make around the language, that's what bonds your team together. That's the first step of alignment. And it's very inspirational, not only for your staff, but also for your customers. It really will clarify the impact that you have on your definition of prosperity. So where's your business? Have you defined what your impact is going to be with a written out purpose, vision, and mission statement? Does everyone in your company know it and embrace it? Or do you have just a couple of those elements? Or have you never considered it before? Take a moment. We sure would love for you to share your scores. Again, it's anonymously, if you don't mind, of where you happen to be with your impact statements. Okay, it looks like some of you all are still giving it some thought and consideration. We'll give you a few more minutes here. Okay. Looks like most of you are around slightly below average. Let's move on to the third element of the shared vision, and that's how do you get that true alignment in your organization? See, we think alignment is vital because that's how you keep your team focused. Now, certainly it's going to be more difficult and challenging as your business grows to keep that team aligned. These 6 tips, hopefully, will improve your alignment in your organization. See, leaders have to lead. They have to lead forward and in front. Leaders connect the why to the direction. Leaders have to be really clear on the culture. Are you a commitment-based culture or an identity-based culture? Leaders establish the rigor and the discipline. We believe you do that through your meeting schedules. We also believe you should be paying attention to your culture and catch people doing it right, not wrong. And lastly, we believe in full transparency because your people, if they don't know, they can't change, they can't improve. Transparency, in our opinion, equals accountability. And accountability increases trust in the organization, which we're going to talk a little bit more in just a minute. At Ferguson Alliance, we've developed this little tool. We call it our alignment triangle. And at the very top of the triangle, it's the most aspirational element that you have, and it takes the longest to get to, 10, 20 years. And that's with your values. And values really define your operating ethos, your basic beliefs and principles. And then your purpose and vision statement is up there. Certainly, it's aspirational as well. As you move down the triangle, mission, strategic, intents, those all have about a 3 to 5 year goal to them. And so you're probably adjusting that mission about every 3 to 5 years. And then as you get down, it's more objective at the base of the triangle with your key result areas. Those are your primary projects that you're going to be working on that need to get accomplished in a particular 1 year period, or your budget and operating plans that must get accomplished. And they're the near-term plans that help get you to your longer-term aspirational dream. So does your organization have good alignment practices in it? Are you able to keep employees engaged with the priorities of the business, or do you find that the priorities are confusing or maybe even in disagreement? So take a minute to score you on that, and we'll see where everybody ends up. And to keep track of your answers, because what we're going to do at the end of this is we're going to ask you all to total your answers and see where everybody's totals came out to be. Well, let's move into the second pillar, organizational strength. It starts with leadership, no doubt. We all know that leadership is important. Now, I've changed the word from a noun to an action verb. I call it leadershiping. And all of us that are leaders in the company, in a company, realize that if we're standing here today and we have a point on the map that we want to get to in the future, we would hope that everybody would just line up behind us and march in a straight line. So maybe one employee might do that, but not everybody does that. We have some employees that actually resist the direction where we're going. We have others that have a different idea of the direction that we should go. And maybe we have some employees, they're somewhat there, but they're still skeptical about what their role should be. So our job with leadershiping is, how do you bring that future to the present? And we do that by providing alignment and clarity to the organization. We align them with our operating structures, our business policies and processes, our budgets and operating plans do that. Compensation provides alignment. We have to provide the clarity by constantly reviewing what is that big dream that we have? What's our North Star? How are we going to get there with our mission and our strategy? And what are the operating practices that we have with our core values? And what's the role that everybody provides? So this is what we believe is active leadership. So do leaders in your company work daily on providing that alignment and clarity? Are they catalytic around your strategy? So take a moment to reflect on that and score yourself. We think the more that you engage with these self-assessments, hopefully the more you'll get out of this webinar. Okay, interesting. Looks like we've got some opportunities to improve in the leadershiping area. Talent is extremely important with organizational strength. And I think all of us know that, but it's more importantly, how do you manage talent? See, talent management, it's got to be a key strategy of any business. The Society of Human Resource Management estimates the cost of replacing an employee to be between 50 and up to 200% of their annual salary. That's a lot. I don't think any business can afford those kinds of costs. So the real question is on talent, and we're not going to go deep into it, but do you have an effective approach to talent management that's not only attracting new talent and the best talent that you need, but retaining the talent? We believe you should talent management strategy should have these 4 components. And I think they need to be worked all the time, helping you get the right people in the right roles. So that's the key is, you know, do you have a good, strong organization structure? Do you have a good culture? And do you have a good talent management plan in place? The people understand their roles, and are they qualified and fairly compensated? So take a time and think about your business and score yourself. Do you happen to be like one of my clients that had their aunt in as the bookkeeper, not very well qualified, and certainly probably overcompensated? Really do appreciate you all taking time for these assessments. So the last pillar of prosperity, system for managing. We're going to look at accountability and trust. See, we think that that forms the basis of any teamwork. We believe that accountability and trust go hand in glove. You can't have one without the other. That's difficult in businesses when you can't delegate or you don't delegate. See, delegation is the premise of trusting somebody with your responsibility. So we think it's very important that you build in accountability structures to help increase that level of trust. There's 2 elements to accountability. There is the behavioral element, and then there's a structure element. So in the structure, do you have the right business meetings in place to escalate barriers, to deal with variances in your process in a safe way? People are comfortable and safe raising up issues that need to be attended to. Do you have meetings with action plans and that we follow up on that, and there's a high degree of self-accountability? That would be the structure. Behavior, the behavioral piece is, you know, are you committed to your independent individual success? Or are you committed to the overall success of the team or the business? And so knowing and understanding where everybody's behaviors are aligned with the structure of the business really helps keep those 2 in place. We think you should pay very close attention to the culture of your organization because it can certainly be a competitive weapon. So the higher the level of trust in an organization, certainly the higher level of accountability you're going to have. In your organization today, is there a high level of trust? People understand what everyone's roles are. They're committed to doing what they say they're going to do. Let's take a moment and score that, and Brandy will put the poll up. Thank you, Brandy. Okay, it looks like with this group, trust is an opportunity to improve. Let's go to the third column, which is system for managing. We're going to start off with strategy. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the North Star is your purpose, vision, and mission. Vision explains, what success looks like. Think about vision as your B statement. The vision, or B, sets the context for everything in your company. Now, what you must have is what you need to attain that vision. That becomes your mission, and your strategic intents tell you what you need to do. You need to be very careful in a business that without a very clear and a very big vision, businesses get stuck in this do-have loop. Successful companies have a clear vision, and they have context for everything that they do. Strategic planning, in our opinion, is very continuous and it changes. It is not something that you do once a year at a company retreat. We actually think that management should be thinking strategically about their business every day. They should be challenging past practices. They should be asking questions. Why are we doing it this way? See, we think strategic thinking clarifies what we shouldn't do, just like Michael Porter's quote here. Strategic thinking should influence how managers manage the business, how they make decisions, why they're always keeping an eye on the future, not just the present. And strategic plans need to be measurable. What are we measuring? Well, we're measuring the growth of the value of the business. Does your firm have strategic plans in place? Are they in a 3-ring notebook that you developed 4 or 5 years ago and it's sitting somewhere in somebody's bookshelf? See, at our company, at Ferguson Alliance, what we do is we establish one-page strategic plans. We like to keep it simple. We don't believe in making big fancy notebooks because they don't get used. And quite honestly, if you're doing it right, you're changing your strategy as you're dealing with the external events of your business and the internal opportunities. Looks like everybody's pretty good shape with strategy, which is great. Planning, how are you going to plan to get your strategy done? Plans vary, certainly for many reasons. We think plans, what they really do is, first of all, let me just say this about a plan. The first day that you implement your plan, it's already probably out of date. But these plans provide clarity on what the priorities are. They provide an outline to what your work is going to be for all of your employees. And we think that there's 4 plans that are very important for the success of business. We've listed those 4 here. So strategic plan, your financial plan, your operation plans, and then, your succession plans. So hopefully you've got all 4 of these plans in place and that these plans are updated on a regular, at least annual basis. So if you have all 4 of these plans in place, you're probably a 5 or a 6. If you're missing 1 or 2 of them, maybe you don't have a good succession plan, not only for leadership, but also for transitioning ownership. If that's not in place, maybe you're a 3 or a 4. If you don't have any of these plans, then perhaps you probably ought to look at getting some of these taken care of. Okay, it looks like some of the plans, there we go. Got maybe half of the plans in place, so an opportunity to get some more plans. Usually the plans that we find that are missing is succession plans and financial plans. Those tend to be the two that are not nearly as robust in some of our clients. Okay, the last element for system for managing is corporate governance. Well, what is exactly corporate governance? Quite honestly, it is what it says. It's kind of the rules or the best practices to direct the company. Well, who sets those rules? Well, it's the board of directors. They're the big influencers on corporate governance. Well, who hires the board of directors? Well, the shareholders do. Just like in a non-family business, the family shareholders hire those board of directors. The basic principle around corporate governance, in my opinion, is accountability, transparency, fairness, and responsibility. Now, governance does vary by the size of the business and the stage that it is in its life cycle. So, for example, a business that it's in its infancy or startup, it probably doesn't need a governing board or a fiduciary board, but having an advisory board, maybe it's an advisory board that might not be compensated that much, but it's made up of subject matter experts that help that founder challenge their ideas, help them think strategically, be a sounding board for that startup business. As the business grows through its life cycle and starts reaching prime to mature, well, that's probably when you do need a board in place that has more of a fiduciary role or responsibility. This is where I highly encourage bringing in independents to join the family members, so these independents can bring some best practices in governance and help make some of the most difficult decisions that a family business might encounter. I don't think that family boards should just be a social group made up of golf buddies and neighbors. You can do that on the social time, but a business first family puts in qualified board members to help them guide the business through some difficult times, as well as help them improve during the more robust times. One thing I want to mention too is a big role that family business boards have is succession planning. Not only on leadership succession, but if the family desires to transition their business to the next generation leadership, just like the client I talked about at the beginning of my call, that's the board's responsibility, is to help train and educate that next generation coming online as that next leader. So the family board is very important, and those independent board members are crucial. There's obviously always a lot of resistance. In fact, I think it's very strong. And again, it's going to be depending upon where the business is. I have a client right now that probably they did not have a fully functioning family board. I mean, they would meet a couple of times a year. They would review the financial statements, but that would be about it. And they recently decided that they wanted to include the next generation into the family board for learning. Well, I think that was a great idea so they could learn, but they didn't put them in as board advisors. They put these other family members in, and they range in their 20s to their 30s with no subject matter expertise related to the business or very little, and gave them equal voting rights. So now all of a sudden you have more family members in the board with equal voting rights on some very difficult issues that this company is being faced with. So I probably wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend that next generation of family board members or family leaders to come in, observe how the board functions, behave. I probably would assign an independent board director to that next generation to be their coach and train them and help them learn and improve their business acumen. So anyway, I do know this, that family businesses are very unique in their situations and problems. Very much, they're very different from a non-family organization. Because see, all businesses, they have to make profit, they have to increase value for their shareholders, they have to be aware of the relationship between management and employees and the ever-changing technology that's going on. And I mean, so that's common, but what's uncommon about family businesses is the relationships of those family members, because families, businesses have a wide spectrum of emotions, right? It goes from trust, love, and affection, because this is my brother, or this is my father, all the way to resentment, jealousy, and rivalry, because this is my brother or my sister or my father. So it's very wide, and you have to have a family board that knows and understands that and can help deal with those issues that come up in these family companies. So what I will say, I'll leave you with this on governance, is that I know we haven't seen everything, but we've seen a lot. It's very rare that a challenge in a family business hasn't already been experienced by another family business. So every family business owner, I would highly recommend that you find yourself a business advisor that works exclusively with family businesses, and or joining a network of family businesses, your peer group, so to speak, so you can deal with some of your challenges with help. Don't go at it alone. So governance, do you have a fiduciary or even an advisory board in your family business? Do they meet frequently? And do you have good best practices for governance? So we'll take a moment to write your scores, and we'll see where you end up with that. Okay, it looks like all of us are beginning to have this. Governance is probably an opportunity we all need to improve on. Okay. So 80% of us kind of on that scale, around 2 or 1. All right, well, let's just take a look at the overall assessment score. If you'll just take a minute, add up your scores. And let's see where you ended up. We've kind of broken it out from industry leader to non-existent or poor. And just add up your scores, and Brandy's going to throw the poll up. And if you don't mind, just selecting the range where you ended up in your assessment of your business, or if you're doing one, if you're a service provider and you were rating a client of yours. Okay, well, this is interesting. We've got, looks like 60% of us are slightly below average. 20%, 33% now are slightly above average, 50% slightly below, 17% need improvement. Well, hopefully, as we went through this webinar, you made a few notes on some opportunities that you have to work on, or to hopefully better prepare your road to prosperity. I really want to thank you for your time and attention. Let me just wrap up by saying our proven process is designed to deliver prosperity through legacy, growth, and value. This building represents your family business treasury. The foundation is your family values, and from those values, you establish your business culture. We think that's the secret sauce. The 3 pillars that lead to prosperity is your shared vision, organizational strength, and your rigorous system for managing. Each pillar is comprised of 3 critical components. That creates 9 key elements that lead to prosperity. We have just a couple of minutes before we come to the end of our webinar. Brandy, do we have any questions that came up in chat that we need to address before we complete our webinar?
I don't have any of this.
Okay. Well, thanks again for joining us on this webinar. We're going to give you 4 minutes of your day back, and we will conclude. And if you want to reach out to us, if you'd like more information, this is our toll-free number. You can always drop us an email as well. You can go to our website, and you'll find a button to book a call. We'd love to talk to you and go a little bit deeper into our prosperity model. We'll be having future webinars, so look out for those announcements. And we also are publishing weekly newsletters that hopefully give you some insightful tips for your business. Thanks again very much for joining, and have a great day.